In 1900, two brothers by the names of John and Horace Dodge began a small car parts supply store in Hamtramck in Michigan. Business grew, and by 1914 they were building automobiles. I'm Darren, and this is Auto Atlantica. After automobile production started, they specialised in trucks primarily, but were also building large cars. Of course, everything was on a chassis in those days. And business went very well. However, in 1920, John succumbed to Spanish flu, and Horace died later that year of liver cirrhosis. So the families decided to sell the business, and which was ultimately sold on to Chrysler in 1928. And once it became part of Chrysler, it became a brand much like GM's ever-increasing empire of brands. GM, of course, in the 1930s began the idea, very successful idea, still used to this day, of platform sharing. And Chrysler soon adopted that as well. In the meantime, in the 20s, Dodge had already began building commercial vehicles, Q, in London, and that was an interesting business. It spawned the famous 200, 300, 400 and 500 series trucks, which were in production for many years. And indeed, Dodge had a presence in the UK that was owned by Chrysler until PSA bought the operations in 1978. Now, in 1964, when Chrysler acquired the Roots Group in Britain, it began to consolidate a lot of things. And so basically by the 1970s, there was a few trucks like the D series, I believe it was, and the Commer vans, which were being built as Dodges, and I think they continued until about 1982 or 83. However, after the sale to PSA, Chrysler continued to license the Dodge name in Europe, particularly in Britain, to Renault, and the Dodge name was applied to many Renault trucks through to mid-90s. And then Chrysler revived the Dodge brand briefly in Europe in about 2006 for about 4 years until the big worldwide credit crunch. Dodge continues, though, in the US with a very strong truck presence. In 1981, it introduced the Ram nameplate with a line of very, very successful full-size trucks, which were half-ton trucks primarily with 3/4-ton options. It became so successful that in 2009, Chrysler decided to spin off the Ram brand as a separate brand in its own right, just producing pickup trucks and commercial vehicles. And when FCA got involved, it was selling Fiat vans as Dodges in the United States. But that's for another story. I'm here today to talk about my 2019 Ram DT1500 pickup truck, why I bought it, my ownership experience of it, what I use it for, and why I'm not particularly happy with it at the moment. I'm going to spend most of my time in here, I think, because it is absolutely freezing today. This is the DT series. It's the latest generation. It debuted at the beginning of 2019, and I bought this one soon after, within weeks. So it was one of the first on the market. That does lead to some of the problems that I've experienced with it, which when we go out for a drive, I'll explain to you. It came with a variety of different engines, a 3.6 six-cylinder, and then several 5.7s. This is the standard 5.7 Hemi V8. It produces a tad under 400 brake horsepower and about 410 pound-feet of torque. You could opt to get the e-torque unit, which was basically the same engine, but they replaced the alternator with an electric motor and a small battery, which would provide up to about an extra 150 pound-feet of torque when you needed it. Didn't give you any more power, but most of that torque was low down the rev range where you need it. But this one has got a towing capacity of around 9 or 10, I believe. I don't use it for towing at all. What I do use it for is photography. And when we get nice days in the spring and summer, I'll head out somewhere, kip on the back seat, so I'm ready for the early sunrise. And it's got lots of different cubbies around it, this thing has, so I can store various photography knickknacks. And that's really all I bought it for. That's all I use it for. It is a very grandiose photography accessory. I don't really use it for anything else. Occasionally to carry things in the truck bed. But people will ask, well, isn't that a monumental waste of money? Well, for me, it isn't, because I don't have another daily driver at all. We do have an older minivan that we use to ferry the dogs around on road trips in. But this is my daily driver. I have no other cars that I use on a daily basis at all. But here inside, the gauge cluster is very clearly laid out. The center screen there is completely adaptable to your needs. You can have all sorts of information displayed there in any of the four corners and along that top bar, and also in the middle. You can customize it to how you want, really. But I've got a compass there. I've got oil temperature, I've got oil pressure, and I've got a battery gauge on there. That's what I've chosen, and then it tells me what my average MPG is across the top. I could have any of that information displayed anywhere else. That's in addition to the main standard gauges. Gear selector is via this rotary dial, as is the four-wheel drive system. And then I have a complete navigation system. This was an option on here as well. And I really like this Uconnect system by Chrysler. I've used it I've had it in other vehicles too. It is really cool. There's all sorts of different apps on this as well. You can go into. You can also operate all of your heated seats and heated steering wheel controls from here. I have this travel link, which tells me what local fuel prices are. It tells me what's on at the nearest movie theaters. It tells me what the weather's doing locally. And yeah, it's pretty miserable out there right now. It even gives me a weather map here, which basically shows you where all the rain and snow is right now. And it will even tell you where the fronts are as well, and give you all the weather warnings as well that happen to be in place at any one time. And then there's other things that you can do with this travel link as well. It's very, very useful. I use it mainly for fuel prices. One thing I do like is that you can actually activate the backup camera while you're on the go, and it will last for about 10 seconds or so while you're on the go. 2 glove boxes, an absolutely monumental glove box here. This opens up and it's really deep, and it goes all the way under. And then there's all sorts of, I've got as far as USB ports, you can't really see them here. There they are. There's 2 USB-Cs and 2 USB-As up front, and exactly the same at the back too. It's even got a CD player. There's the backup camera. There's the load bed. Now this has got the RAM boxes on the side. I'll show you one in a minute. But it does reduce your bed width by about 3 feet. And so I had to get a special truck bed cover on this. It's a trifecta. That's not going to go anywhere because the extrusions on the aluminium that this fits into were so tight. The place that fitted it for me was literally malleted it into place. Right, so here's a RAM box. Now these RAM boxes are very, very cool. You've got a 400 watt inverter 115 volt AC adapter in there, which is very cool. And you switch the inverter on for this inside. Also in here, there's some nice LED lights, same on the other side. Only this side has the inverter. And these are really handy for me for carrying things like tripods and that kind of thing. I don't have any in here right now. Might be one on the other side. But what's cool about this setup down here, and excuse my mess, is that you can use this bay here to carry ice in. Not only will it just act like a normal ice box, is that you've actually got a drain plug at the bottom as well to drain it all out afterwards. Very, very clever. This locks with the central locking. And then in here, excuse my stuff, I've got a refrigerator in here as well. They've got these Ram bins, and these fit flush with the floor. And what I do in there is just keep all sorts of odds and sods. There's room all under the back seat for things as well. And these doors actually come out like 90 degrees. And this is where I kip in the back of this thing when I am out doing photography. In the middle here, and again, excuse all my rubbish, you've got more of those USB ports as well. And then there is a 115 volt outlet underneath. More, you see those? More cup holders. And this slot here actually holds an iPad. So if I'm laying in the back here camping, I can have this fits at such an angle that I can actually watch something on Netflix or whatever whilst I'm sort of kipping in the back. It's very, very cool. No heated seats in the back. They come on the upper models. And but it does have folding mirrors. It does have pedal adjustment in here as well. And there's the inverter switch for the RAM box at the back. But it's got pretty much everything that I need. Otherwise, it doesn't have a sunroof like the more expensive models, but it does have Sirius Guardian right here, which operates a bit like GM's OnStar. So I can press that if I'm in trouble, and I can speak to somebody via satellite, and they know exactly where I am, and they can get me to safety. Okay, I apologise for this truck being like a pigsty. Like I say, this is my main driver, so I've tidied up a bit for you. I've always really liked this layout. The ride is superb in this, and it was actually equated to a Mercedes when it first came out, compared with other trucks. And I largely agree with that. It's very, very smooth. It's very comfortable, and the handling is pretty good for something of this girth as well. But the ride really is beautiful. It's got parking sensors front and rear, which you can switch off. You've also got a towing mode in here, which adjusts your gear ratios, and then you can turn the traction control off as well. What I don't have is a towing brake system here, which I do have on order, and I'm going to have fitted to this truck. So let's take off, and I'll tell you about, there's some of the things that I'm going to have done to it, but I'm going to talk to you about what I've had done to it previously and what I'm going to have done to it in the future. So the first things really I've had done to this truck so far are basically all protective stuff. So for instance, the bug screen on the front, which also protects your bonnet from stone chips by and large as well. What I don't like on this truck is that the paint that is on the bumpers is very, very thin and chips very easily. Thankfully I've managed to avoid most of that, so it's still in fairly decent shape. I also had much larger mud flaps. This is all Mopar stuff all round. So I decided, instead of going to an SUV, because I really like the Wagoneer, but very, very expensive. I mean, the one I wanted starts at like $80,000. So I've decided that I'm going to upgrade this truck, even though this has the night edition blacked out headlights and tail lights. I'm going to you buy the top-notch Morimoto, I think it's Morimoto LED units, adaptive LEDs that go on the front, and you get nice ones on the back as well. You can get their LED license plate lights as well, but I'm not going to bother with those because this has got LED license plate lights on it anyway. I'm also planning on getting the automatic steps for the side as well, again, that will just be a nice treat for it. That is an expensive touch, that is, so we will see. Maybe not be an immediate thing, because I have to bear in mind as well that I really don't use this truck an awful lot. I've done 15,000 miles in it over 5 years, and the only other thing that I use it for, apart from going out on photography trips, is basically work trips, because most of my work outings are for divisions that I'm involved in on the other side of Ohio. As you can tell, you can barely hear the engine. It's basically like a new truck. And so I figured that after 5 years, it would be really pointless buying anything new, and certainly pointless dropping 80,000 on an SUV, which is essentially the same as this underneath, essentially exactly the same ride, the same engine, albeit it's got the e-torque on it, just so I can have a fancy set of screens and a dashboard that's basically turns into a satellite navigation. You know, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Is it worth it? And the answer, of course, is no. So anyway, I'm going to be keeping this truck for a while. And I've enjoyed it owning it. And, you know, it's like with any car ownership, you can get bored after a while. But this is a beautiful truck, all said and done. And I don't think I'd want to be without it. I know I'd miss it if I got rid of it. And that's the question that I always keep asking myself when I look at getting rid of any car. Would I miss it? And I would miss this truck. There is no doubt about it. So there we have it. Hopefully that's given you an insight into why I drive around in a big, massive American pickup truck. But it's thanks to John and Horace Dodge for me being in this thing in the first place. Had it not have been for them, I would not be in this vehicle as it stands right now. I'd be in something different. So, thanks very much for watching. This is Darren, and this is Auto Atlantica. I did say the one thing I didn't like about this truck, and it's proved to be quite a big problem. It's leaks. These early DTs from the 2019 model year were prone to leaks from the back window, mainly around the window itself and around the high-level brake light there. Not good. Mine was leaking from both. I've had the high-level brake light resealed, and I'm awaiting for a new, this goes into like a plastic surround, this window, and the extrusion is extremely tight, and consequently what happens is that the plastic surrounds break, hence the leaks. It's a monumental problem. Even though my truck is out of warranty, the dealerships are so aware of these that they are comping the whole thing. I'm still waiting, however, for that window surround.